In the nooks and crannies of central Pennsylvania nestle small, unannounced towns. Often they appear suddenly, the 35 miles per hour roadside signaling, "You'd best slow down. Village up ahead." Those who have lived here for years know that within these historic towns and villages lie the essence, the soul of central Pennsylvania. Today we'll explore one. A place called Boiling Springs.
Underwriting for A Place Called Boiling Springs is provided by Central Pennsylvania Conservancy, Capital Area Intermediate Unit, Boiling Springs Civic Association, and the H. Robert Davis family in memory of Lila L. Davis.
Gazing into the pristine lake waters, you can count the pebbles lying on its shallow bottom, or far down into the rock crevices, see the never-ending rolling of the crystalline water and the grains of sand dancing there. It all started around, of all things, water. Bubbling water, fresh, pure water for homes, for industry, for people. So fresh that its waterways are considered the perfect habitat for trout.
Going back 250 years, goes back to the 1700s. Colonial anglers came into this part, probably for sustenance. Preceded by the Indians, of course. Native to the Yellow Breeches, lived on the islands along the stream, fished here.
It is the water, the big boil, as it's known by the locals, that is the heart and soul, the center of the town's being. And with the water comes the pastimes that are associated with town life along lakes and creeks. At Boiling Springs, fishing has always been a favorite activity. The lake and the Yellow Breeches Creek have become renowned throughout the country as popular centers for fly fishing. It's believed that the Yellow Breeches received its unusual name because the British soldiers who waded in it before the Revolution found it stained their breeches yellow. Rich in folklore, Boiling Springs is recognized as one of the prime trout fishing sites in the country. Eric Edstrom discusses the tradition and history of trout fishing in Boiling Springs.
Trout are very finicky. Depending on what their habitat is, their behavior differs. In Mountain Creek, we have wild brook trout. Here in the Yellow Breeches, we have a combination of brook trout, rainbows, brown trout. A lot of stocking goes on here to encourage the sport of fly fishing. The opposite bank of the lake here is restricted to children and people with a handicap to give them the opportunity to enjoy a very relaxing and delightful sport. When I look around my home or the streams in this area, I'm awestruck with the beauty that this valley has. But I'm also struck with the need that I have to contribute to preserving it and keeping it, as many of us do. I'm really having trouble saying this, but it's important to preserve and keep what we see around us here. It's important for me, my children, the grandchildren, the next generation, so they can enjoy what's been enjoyed here for hundreds of years.
In the beginning, the upper springs flowed freely until a man-made lake was formed in the late 1750s. That access to water power paved the way for the Carlisle Ironworks. From this furnace were made pots, iron bars, and even cannonballs used in the Revolutionary War. Each day, 22 million gallons of clear 53-degree spring water surge from some 30 springs and flow into the lake. The small lake it formed has been shaped and enhanced by the townspeople themselves. Citizens led by the owners of the ironworks helped rearrange stones to form a picturesque wall shoreline. The lake gradually became a popular spot for recreation. Nestled in the Cumberland Valley, Boiling Springs is frequently bypassed, but it has charming attributes and much, much more. Boiling Springs has a resiliency, an absolute conviction that is unique.
It's an honor to restore an old house and bring it back to its historical preservation. I think it's a worthy act.
Sandy Edstrom discusses restoration and the importance of keeping the past alive.
The vibes in an old house, it certainly does not need to be seen with modern materials in it. It's like putting miniskirt on your grandma. It just isn't the right thing to do. And it's just so peaceful when you bring it back to history and historical things. As a newcomer, a lot of our native residents don't realize that. Front Street is just so beautiful, and it is a historic, commemorative village. But there's so many homes here that if people would think that way as to the past and bring it back to the look, it would be wonderful.
The initial growth of the village took place principally on Front and First Streets. There are many notable homes in this area that date back to the mid-1800s. Among them is the Kaufman House. This 2.5-storied house was built in 1880 by Daniel Kaufman, the man who laid out the village of Boiling Springs. Kaufman was an abolitionist and an agent for the Underground Railroad. When runaway slaves reached Boiling Springs, Daniel Kaufman often hid them. Although he helped a considerable number of slaves, records have been found for only 2 incidents involving fugitive slaves passing through Boiling Springs. Not surprising, these activities were conducted in extreme secrecy. P.J. Heyman knows her community well.
Foundry Day is sort of the celebration of Boiling Springs. It shows everybody what a wonderful place we have here, the crafts that we have in the area, the community spirit.
P.J. Heyman discusses the area and its unusual history.
The people in Boiling Springs have a pride in their town. We just love it. Want everybody else to be able to see what a gem we have here, and of course, you know, have people come and visit us and enjoy it.
She is an active participant in Foundry Day, when local artisans, and just about everybody else for that matter, come to be part of the community and its legacy.
We're very proud of the Pennsylvania artists and craftsmen, and there are many of them in this area that produce just some of the most wonderful work. There is a pride in Boiling Springs from its residents. I mean, you can see it in the wall around the lake that was restored by the Civic Association. with monies raised through Foundry Day. And that's another important aspect of Foundry Day, is the ability for Boiling Springs to raise monies for the community, to be put back into the community and beautify it and keep it.
Foundry Day, the Kaufman House, and so much of this town are just examples of the sense of history so keenly felt here. In fact, the entire village has been designated a National Historic Site. Traditionally, buildings, landmarks, and homes are known to be national treasures. And so are people. Take Ed Campbell, for example.
Give me a kiss.
Apprentices from all over the world come to his shop in Boiling Springs and spend up to 4 years learning the delicate art of handcrafting violins and cellos. Campbell's instruments are much sought after, and their prices match their beauty and sound.
What we do has been going on since the middle of the 1500s, and we're basically doing it in much the same way they did it in the 1500s. An instrument is made entirely by one person, and that's the difference between an instrument with value and an instrument without a great deal of value. Because we not only run a violin shop for the benefit of the players in the area, and us too, because it's a heck of a lot of fun, but we teach this art of violin making as well, and we have since 1970. Well, just look around. You've been through the area here. Per capita, we probably have more people that do things in the artistic vein than maybe anywhere else in the country. We've got Putt down here, we've got a whole bunch of others. They're just all over the place here in Boiling Springs, so we fit in very well. I won a gold medal for my one violin back in, I forget, 1982 or something like that. There were 2 gold medals given out in that competition. One went to Tokyo and one went to Boiling Springs. So there's again that same thing. So I won 3 gold medals. When you get 3 gold medals, they don't want to see you anymore.
There is an oft-quoted observation that Boiling Springs resembles one of those quaint New England towns so highly cherished for its charm and its respect for preserving its traditions. These peaceful surroundings, the delicate shades of flora and fauna, combined with the subtle sounds of flowing water, have inspired many artists. Celebrated wildlife painter Gerald Putt has lived his entire life in Boiling Springs.
I get my inspiration from outside my shop. If I get stale when it comes to doing a painting, all I have to do is take a walk a couple blocks away. Down here is the lake. Take a walk around the lake, check out the ducks. Sometimes you'll see more than just ducks. Maybe an osprey flying over. You might be doing the fishing for the day. So it doesn't take a whole lot of time to get inspiration. In Boiling Springs, we have a lot. I mean, we have the different ducks on the lake, we have the trout in the streams and in the lake, the historic buildings around town. If anybody just wants to go explore, they can find lots of interesting things. Sometimes I have to paint for 30 hours in a row. It's still okay because I enjoy what I do. I'm very fortunate to have people pay me for my enjoyment. So I'm very fortunate. When I'm doing a painting, what I'm looking for is to try to create life, and hopefully I can improve on each painting, and each painting will create more life. So usually in the eyes is where I establish that sparkle or give it the life. So that way the animal can maybe look like it's going to look around or whatever. People tell me there's a certain wonder in my paintings. Then I wonder what they're thinking about sometimes. But I find it amazing that I can do this. Growing up as a kid, I've always had the talent to do artistic things, and I found my niche 25 years ago, and hopefully we can keep going for another 25.
Boiling Springs is an example of a quintessential village that evolved from a combination of nature's resources and man's ingenuity. It is an historic area that reflects 2.5 centuries of its past and revels in its multifaceted present. From the quiet, secluded, zen-like atmosphere of fly fishing, the waters in the lake give way to the fires of the spirit, to theater, to dance.
My father, who was in business, Charles Hines in Carlisle, just seemed to, when he saw this place, saw a dream.
Jane Hines discusses the Allenbury Playhouse and its historic significance to the village.
He saw beautiful land, old buildings that were so apropos to what was happening in this area. You know, this is a central Pennsylvania limestone, our wonderful stream, wonderful buildings. All barns in this area are built of this wonderful limestone. And he saw this place and he thought, I think other people should see it. And in 1949, having this hotel and restaurant, someone suggested, you know, summer stock theaters are all the go right now. It was after the war, people were starting to travel. People were going out of New York, actors out of New York, and they were going to surrounding states, New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, and they were taking up any area that they could put a show together. You'd take a barn, you'd move the cattle out, they would be the winter stock, you'd move the actors in from New York, they became the summer stock. And it was a great opportunity for actors. Well, we had these restaurants and hotels and a barn, and we thought maybe we could just have a barn theater. And so with Mr. Gage, my father, put together a equity summer theater opening July 2nd, 1949. We're still an equity theater. We're still one of those summer stock theaters that goes from March to December. So it's not summer stock anymore, it's year-round stock. And we give actors opportunities to perform. We give our customers a chance to see off-Broadway. I mean, it's off-Broadway, but it's quality theater, along with food and lodging and these beautiful surroundings and fishing on the Yellow Breeches. We can't forget that our local area is so beautiful, and it hasn't changed in all these years. I don't know if people realize that you could come to Boiling Springs and really see what you've seen for years and years and years and years and years.
It was this simple union of water and the human spirit that led to the harnessing of the spring into a powerful resource for industry, recreation, and leisurely pleasures.
And go! And South of Family Friends looks like they are all the
Today, amidst the celebration of Anything Floats Day, citizens of Boiling Springs celebrate the vitality of their beloved lake.
I've been down to that lake many times over the years, and every time I go down there I see the children, and the children now become parents, and they're bringing their children. And this lake is a jewel, a wonderful resource.
Tony DeLuca is a local attorney and a citizen of Boiling Springs. He talks to us about living along the lake.
The people are just amazing. People, during the restoration of the lake, appeared out of nowhere to help sort rock for the people who were restoring it. There were people who donated 2 years of their time working for nothing to restore this lake. There were people who came for an hour or so at a time to remove stone from a pile high and put them on pallets so that they could be used in the restoration of the lake.
It's not a large community by any stretch of the imagination. But it looms large in its respect for its history, tradition, and culture. It is a place that draws inspiration from its past.
I think it's important to have this house for the village. When we're gone, this is the way it is, and we would hope somebody else would continue it.
It's a neat town. Boiling Springs is a neat town. I've been very fortunate to have spent most of my 52 years here. I pity the kids today that live in developments that are too far away from this little town to come down and explore and just run around and have a good time.
When I look around my home or the streams in this area, I'm awestruck with the beauty that this valley has. Solitude, to enjoy watching the fish in their natural habitat, to look at the surrounding, the trees, the wildlife, sometimes a beautiful clear or cloudy sky. It's almost like looking at a painting.
We want to keep what we have here, what makes Boiling Springs so wonderful. The beautiful town itself, the surroundings, the open spaces, the greenery. That's what we are known for and proud of.
It is a place that believes that traditions should be preserved for generations to come. It is a place called Boiling Springs.